Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
I mean, today is a good day already, isn't it? I mean, unbelievable. The weather is beautiful outside. I feel bad for my friends out there that are at work and they're wearing like winter hats and they're inside and they're frigid. I'm sorry to everybody out there. I love everybody that is tuning into the show today, supporting the show. I love you all. It's just been a great start to the day. Talking to an old friend on the phone today was really nice, and hearing all of this great news about our teams in the Tampa Bay region. I played softball last night. My old dusty ass got out there and we won. And I got a chance to talk some shit. And I had a big hit. It was, to put our team ahead in the last inning. We ended up winning. It was a really good time to be out there with the Pendingos again. So it's been a fun 24 hours, baby. And our chat yesterday, always a great chat with our guy, Seth Vanadore, a good Italiano. Seth Vanadore, my guy, all over it, Bay Area Examiner, talking all things USF. One of the names he brought up, Brian Hartline. There you go. Brian Hartline, your new coach at the University of South Florida, leading this football team. I could not be happier with this decision. Rob Higgins, Derek Brooks, zeroed in on this dude. Offensive coordinator for Ohio State. One of, if not the best recruiter right now in college football. Played in the pros. Miami Dolphin. Knows the area. And you see all of the love that USF is getting right now on social media, right? There's a lot of perils in social media. There's a lot of bad things. But you look at it right now and you look at everybody across the board that is lauding USF and Rob Higgins and Derek Brooks for this decision. I mean, an absolute home run hire. This is the kind of guy that you want leading this program forward as you inch closer and closer to conference realignment, as we get closer to opening up a new stadium. I mean, this is absolutely huge. And if I'm Keyshawn Singleton and I'm Jeremiah Coger and I'm looking at, and I'm these wide receivers, and listen, if you're going to go to Auburn, and join Alex Golish, he's the guy that brought you here. I mean, what can you say? But it ain't a bad option to stick around here, buddy boy. Brian Hartline, the new guy leading the green and gold. I am over the moon with this hire. I think this is just, you got a young guy with passion. This is not a second choice, a third choice. Think about this, right? We're at a stage right now where USF, and one of the biggest things that we spoke about yesterday with Seth Vanadore from Bay Area Examiner was that they're all in with the revenue sharing. And I had this conversation with multiple people yesterday. They were asking me about USF. And there's going to be these schools out there in these Power 4 conferences that aren't going to spend that $20.5 million. USF is. And they're a group of 5. How many teams in the American are going to do that? Or how many schools in the American? I don't know. But as of right now, it's just USF. So if you're Brian Hartline, you're like, dude, I'm going to be able to go out there. I'm going to be able to throw some cash out there. I'm going to be able to bring some big recruits in. I'm going to be able to retain guys. And you also set yourself up for the future for conference realignment. When everything changes, USF is going to be ready. This is not coach speak. This is not CEO speak from Rob Higgins and Derek Brooks and the crew. They are ready. They are ready for the future. And this hire tells you that. Somebody asked yesterday, how long is it going to take? How long is it going to take for them to be able to bring in a new guy? And I said, you would think that they would try to get somebody in the next week or two. It wasn't even 24 hours from when that question was posed that Brian Hartline gets announced as the new head coach. And it was just announced just a couple of minutes ago officially. And we saw On3 had it. We saw Pete Thamel had it from ESPN. There's a lot of different people that have confirmed it. Joey Knight from the Tampa Bay Times. But now USF puts out the graphic moments ago on social media confirming that Brian Hartline will be the new guy for USF. No waiting. No waiting. They jumped right on it. It's National Signing Day today. So when you look at some of the things that we had this conversation with yesterday with Seth about National Signing Day, you're going to punt on it. And I agreed. And I think a lot of people were like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't think you are now. I think you're in the hunt. If people are, we saw a couple guys already like flip, they're going to go to Auburn. That's fine. That's fine. Alex Willis is your guy. I understand that. But I mean, hey, this is not a consolation prize. This is a huge coup for USF. This is a guy that's been in. He's been around. And I know Robert Cochran, he's excited today. Sorry, it's not your guy, Tony Beck. That's okay. Listen, I wasn't pinning my hopes that Anthony Beck was going to be the guy for USF. I just wanted them to give him a look. I love AB. Great guy, great football mind. Give him a look. They want to go somewhere else? Fine. I am not in a situation where it was like Anthony Beck or bust. And I think that was what's funny. Everybody was getting their panties in a wad. Like, I never even said he was the number one guy. But I just give him a look. They're going with Brian Hartline. This is a phenomenal choice for USF. Said that since day one. I trust Rob Higgins. I trust Derek Brooks. I trust the staff over there at USF. There are some people out there that are looking at Brian Hartline going, man, he could have been a better option even before Alex Golish left. We'll see. We'll see, because we know how tough it is to be able to go from a coordinator to the head coach. You know, we spoke about that yesterday. To move your seat, that 12 inches from one seat to the next. We hear about that a lot in college football. But there's just something about this, man. There's something about this hire that you look at how many different people enjoy this hire. Now, do we look at it like, I don't want to have that conversation of, is he going to be around for the long term? We don't know. I don't know if we can ever really pin our hopes on anybody being that guy. We don't know. Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss for LSU. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame for LSU. Like, we don't know. We don't know. Let's enjoy it, man. There's so many times in sports where we're pissed and we're pessimistic and our team loses and there's so many things to bitch and moan about and you lose guys. And today is not one of those days. Today is one of those days to rejoice as a fan in the Tampa Bay area. There's a lot of good. And this is even coming after the Lightning loss last night, 2-1 to the Islanders. We'll talk to Erik Erlendsson at 1 o'clock today from lightninginsider.com. 2-1. I don't hate that at all. Don't hate that at all. They're back in action tomorrow. I will be live from Benchmark International Arena tomorrow ahead of the Lightning's matchup with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, we'll talk to Eddie and Cena tomorrow as well. Also, some of the great news that we saw that Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan, that the Buccaneers have opened their window to be activated off of IR over the next 21 days. I mean, that is going to be number one. That is going to be the number one story on most days. But think about that too. And shout out to our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, EverHealth. We love them. I know our guy Russ was early today. He was ready to roll, a USF grad. He is jacked up. Think about this as another thing where USF is at. This is the number one story in Tampa today. This is the number one story in Tampa today. Not Mike Evans, not Jalen McMillan, not the Buccaneers looking to make it 2 in a row this weekend. That says a lot. That says a lot. And I don't know if that's an opinion. That might be fact today. It is a big deal. Don't get me wrong. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the fact that so many people across the country are talking about why this was such a good move for USF. Just look at the type of people right now that are talking about South Florida. Just scroll through your social media. People, you got Dave Portnoy from Barstool talking about USF. Chris Henry Jr. ready to commit. He was ready to commit to Ohio State with Brian Hartline, but he has 3 hats on the table. USC, Oregon, and Ohio State. And Dave Portnoy just put star USF to add them in. You don't know. Now, of course, is it going to be tough to be able to go against some of these other Power 4 schools? Yes. But you want to talk about a guy in Brian Hartline that brought C.J. Stroud to Ohio State, brought Marvin Harrison Jr. to Ohio State, brought Emeka Egbuka to Ohio State, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jeremiah Smith. Like, this is a guy that is not only the offensive coordinator for the number 1 team in the country, a play caller, and we were kind of going back and forth about that yesterday with Seth, but he's also the number 1 recruiter, I think, in the country. You become wide receiver because of the guys that you bring in there. And that's the thing. You bring guys in, but you develop them. You bring them in and then you develop them. There's a lot of high-profile guys that get brought in and that they're on these rivals lists and they're top 100 and they're 4-star recruits and all these different things. And then they go to college and you're like, nah. They're good, but do they develop? And that's the thing. That's the thing at the collegiate level. You bring these guys in, and you're supposed to help them on their trajectory to what? The goal is not to play college football. The goal is to play in the NFL. And then you look at this year, and you look at what you've seen from Emeka Egbuka as a rookie. You look at what you've seen from Jackson Smith and Jigba. We watched him when Seattle took on the Bucs, and he's been one of the best receivers in the league this year. This is as exciting. Like, this is their number 1 pick. No? This is their top guy on the board. It has to be. I haven't seen one person think this was a bad idea. You're not going to get that here. You're not going to hear me say that. When you have a decision like this and you get your man, all these good vibes that we've been building. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And somebody was asking me about this yesterday is it going to be Anthony Beck? Is it going to be John Gruden? Is it going to be another one of is it going to be a Dan Mullen? You need a guy that is going to keep the energy. You're going to keep the momentum. You need a guy with a high floor. And as much as some people want to take a risk on one of those bigger names, I think this is kind of the best of both worlds. This is the guy that you're bringing in that understands quality control guy, co-offensive coordinator with a guy like Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator, top recruiter, top program in the country the last couple of years, right? I mean, could you get – this is a better hire today than bringing in Alex Golesh was 3 years ago. Think about that. And I'm not talking about the success with Alex Golesh because, again, he was a little bit of an unproven commodity. There was some trepidation with Alex Golesh because he was an assistant. He was a coordinator. He was a guy that did not have that head coaching experience. And there was a lot of people that were concerned because of what? Because we just saw what happened with Jeff Scott. So the people that were apprehensive, the people that did have some pause when it came to Alex Golesh, of course he won him over. Of course he won him over with back-to-back winning seasons, back-to-back bowl victories, and then going 9-3 this year. But there was that wait-and-see approach. People still, you saw it when Golesh was rumored to take the Arkansas job and then looking to leave for Auburn eventually. There were some people that were like, okay, but you lose games to Memphis and Navy this year that you probably should have won. And your record against some of these teams in the conference, not great. Team looked unprepared. And again, do you put that on him? Do you put it on the defense? We'll never know, right? We'll never know how much of the blame goes to Golish, how much of the blame goes to Todd Orlando. But what we do know, and again, I think everybody can agree to this, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong or right. I think Brian Hartline, I think the hire of Brian Hartline right now is a better hire than when they hired Alex Golish 3 years ago. You have a guy that's coming from one of, if not the top program in the country. Not slighting Tennessee, but we know Ohio State is higher than Tennessee. I think we can all agree with that, right? And this is a guy that was, and our good pal Chris Torello from long time from Spectrum Sports put this out. And I thought this was very interesting. There were people in Penn State that wanted Brian Hartline to be the head coach of Penn State. Think about that. You're talking about a guy that was wanted by one of the most venerable programs in the country with the Nittany Lions. And he's the head coach at USF. He chose USF over Penn State. Think about that. That's huge. That is huge. Now, why is that reason? Is it because he's an Ohio State guy and you don't want to go to the Nittany Lions? Oh, okay. I can understand. But still, regardless, it's a dream come true to be able to be a coach. There's only so many of those jobs out there. So for somebody like Brian Hartline, who really could have had his pick of the litter when it comes to jobs across the country, for him to decide on USF is a huge coup for Rob Higgins, Derek Brooks, and the leadership there at South Florida. He's going to get whatever he wants. And again, I hearken back to what we spoke about a couple of months ago when I was there for the introduction for Brian Hodgson as the new head coach of the men's basketball team, and Will Weatherford getting on that stage and saying how much USF was dedicated to their athletic program. This isn't just an also-ran thing. This isn't just something that comes along. This isn't just something that we do. This is who we are. And they understand there at USF. And this is why I've been saying this shit for the last couple of years. If you're not already on the green and gold bandwagon, you need to get on right now. And you look at the decisions that have been made, even the smaller decisions. And when I say smaller, I'm not slighting anybody because you know I love all the athletic programs over there. But I'm talking about ones outside of the football and basketball. Just think about this, right? You go out. You have a lacrosse program for the first time. You bring in Mindy McCord, who's done an incredible job. Incredible job. You go out and you get a baseball coach in Mitch Hannes from Indiana State who hosted a super regional. And look at how good they were in their first year. He's going to be even better this year. You look at what he was able to do. You look at what Amir Abdur-Rahim did during his time here. You look at Brian Hodgson coming here. And of course, it's Michael Kelly. It's Rob Higgins, right? Now's the time, if you're not on board with the green and gold, to get on board. Because the hires, because of the type of people that they're bringing in, the success on some of the programs. You look at how good our soccer teams are doing. You look at how good our cheer teams are doing. You look at how good our track or cross country. I mean, you keep hitting on stuff like this. You're building a foundation of an athletic program that is going to continue to grow over the years. And again, I give Michael Kelly a lot of credit. When NIL was sometimes a taboo type of word, he embraced it from day one. He was one of the first. USF was one of the first schools in the entire country to embrace NIL. And you could say whatever you want about Michael Kelly, but I give him that as much as anything else. He saw what was coming on the horizon. And you look at it right now, and you look at what USF is doing, and that's what a guy like Rob Higgins is continuing to do. He is continuing the climb for this USF athletics program. when you bring in a guy like Brian Hartline, a guy that has coached tons of young men that are playing on Sundays and plying their trade in the National Football League and getting paid millions of dollars to do it, what better recruiting tool is that? And oh yeah, he knows the Florida area, right? He's gotten some of our best athletes here in the Sunshine State to go up there to Columbus to play at the Horseshoe. Now, is he going to get those same type of guys? Maybe. Maybe not. But man, are you going to miss out on any of those guys that may be just a notch below? No, sir. No, sir. Not if you're Brian Hartline. Not if you're with USF. So my message out to Keyshawn Singleton, my message out to Jeremiah Koger, and some of these other wide receivers out there with USF. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, because you know the grass is as green as it's going to get right here at USF. Now, what does this mean for a guy like Byron Brown? I still think Byron Brown moves on. I agree with what Seth had to say yesterday. Listen, go somewhere else. Go get a bag. People are going to be all over it. We got Lachlan ready to go. He threw that incredible pass on the fake punt earlier in the season. And who knows? As much as we talk about wide receivers, why does it have to stop there? I mentioned CJ Stroud before. And if you know you're going to play in an up-tempo, fun, energetic offense with playmakers all around the football field, why wouldn't you want to come to USF? If you know that they got money, as much money as anybody in the American, and they're going to be spending more than some of these other Power 4 schools out there, living in the city of Tampa, opening up a new stadium, not next year, but the year after. Like, this shit is about to explode here at South Florida. And if you remember, we had this conversation. I was actually looking at my YouTube channel before. I don't know if it was before the season when we spoke to Jim Lighthall, or it was after the news came out about Jim Lauk. But he mentioned, and if you guys remember, things are about to explode at USF. Everywhere. Football, basketball, up and down this entire athletics program. Does he bring a quarterback with him? Adam wants to know. Maybe one of the guys behind Julian Sain. I don't think Sain's going anywhere. But let's get to some of these comments. I know you guys are super excited. Robert Hammer, my guy. Dolan, yes, tough loss to the Islanders last night. My dad was happy, and it's funny because my dad did not talk shit to me this morning. He was more concerned if I was okay after softball last night. So, Dad, I love you. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, hold on. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. That's it. He texted. He said, sounds good. Love you. Oh, that's funny. I was waiting. That would have been funny shit, too, if my dad would have, like, oh, yeah, how about those Islanders? You son of a gun. Robert's happy in OKC. We know that for sure. Jay Bird, listening, FedEx got me by the bag. Super busy. DT, I hear you, buddy. Happy to hear that, Jay. We miss hearing about the Pendingos. Yes, Brian Hartline, baby. Brian Hartline. It's a beautiful thing. $5 super chat from our guy, Eddie. Bolts not cover. Sorry, pal. Need a hug for my way my cats got beat. And congrats on the Hartline standing Finn player. You got that right, buddy. Dustin J, I'm a lifelong Tampa sports fan that has followed your work for years. I'm also a credentialed media member for Auburn University. I would love to have you on my show sometime. Keep up the good work. Dustin, let me know, man. Let me know. Send me a message on Twitter or Instagram, and we can definitely make that happen, buddy. Robert, I don't want to know what you're wearing, pal. LFG, our guy Richie P. I'm effing stoked. On Monday, I was pounding the table for Groom because I never would have guessed we had a champ with this guy with so many big-time jobs available. I'm with you, pal. I am with you. Love you guys, man. This is really cool. They had him chosen before the carousel started. Pretty impressive. He slipped through the cracks for us. Or Higgins and DB lured him here with the stadium and whatnot. Pumped. You got that right, buddy. Do we root for Ohio State in the playoffs? It's up to you. I mean, if you don't have a dog in the fight, yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Hammer's not rooting for Ohio State. Evolve in the house. This is exciting. Continuing to build the program. We are on the rise. Chris Cole, such a great hire by Higgins and Brooks. And then, listen, you're right, pal. Mecca speaks very high of. He certainly does. He certainly does. Adam, his offenses are aggressive and methodical, not just numbers due to volume. I like that. Yeah, because a lot of times when they get ahead, they're running the football a ton, and we saw with the last year with the running back situation, both those guys getting drafted too. USF must recruit heavily in the area and get local kids, especially kids that played on state championship teams, and get them to come to USF and continue some success. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, no doubt. Part of it, no doubt. But listen, let's not stop. All right, Dustin. Yeah, let me know, man. I will definitely hit you up for sure, and we'll get on. We'll speak. And not just the great news there, but the great news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers too, as well. Seeing media. Okay, so this is from earlier today. This is from our pal Matt Matera from Pewter Report. Jalen McMillan at the Buccaneers walkthrough today. It's a good thing there. Benjamin Morrison was there. Baker looked like he was just standing around. Mike Evans not out there when the media was, but very likely he went there afterwards. So you're looking at this, and we saw the news today. And we get this actually, here we go, from Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times. 10 minutes ago, updated. For the first time since suffering a neck injury in preseason game at Pittsburgh in August, Bucs receiver Jalen McMillan returned to the football field on Wednesday. He didn't do much during the walkthrough portion of practice that was open to the media, but he's out of the neck brace, and head coach Todd Bowles said Monday it's a matter of the Bucs receiver getting used to wearing a helmet again. Mike Evans, recovering from a broken clavicle he sustained in a game on at Detroit on October 20th, finishing up his rehab during the special teams portion, but also made it out to practice. So that is from our good friend Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times. Make sure you subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times and support local, no doubt about it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. How about this too? Jeremiah Koger from the USF just tweeted out 2 fire emojis when it comes to Brian Hartline. So there you go. This is big. You'll love to see it. J Money likes it. Stay here. There you go. Hopefully he stays here. That'd be awesome. What a good day for Tampa sports, right? What a good day. When I look at situations on what happens today in sports, it's just a beautiful thing. That's why we love talking about it. It's why we love living here in the Tampa Bay area. Huge, man. Excuse me. I was talking straight for 28 minutes there. Sore as hell when I woke up this morning, man. Sore as hell playing softball. But I'm feeling better today. The elbow's actually doing pretty good. Some of the medicine that I got from Dr. Rodriguez, I got this this gel that's like for like extreme arthritis. And I've been I put it all, bro, you should have seen me. I was like the Tin Man yesterday. Elbows, wrists, knees, ankles. And I tell you what, I'm sore, but I'm not dead. So I'm okay. I'm feeling okay. I'm pretty happy with what's going on right now as far as me. Maybe because I'm just jacked up and energetic of what's going on with the Tampa Bay area, and hearing that news of Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan cleared to return to practice. Nathan Elliott is here, of course, saying hello to the wrecking crew. The Buccaneers, when you look at the schedule going forward, why not, man? Why not this Buccaneers team? And that's why I really didn't put too much stock into them losing and going 6-5. It was like, all right, if it happens, it happens. It happens, it happens. And now they're 6-5, and then they played the Cardinals. It wasn't great. Now they're 7-5, and they control their destiny. Go win these next 3 games, and you can lose the last 2, and you still win the division. It doesn't have to be pretty. Sometimes it's like, all right, well, yeah, you want to play your best ball at the end of the regular season, but yeah, you could play great ball in the regular season. If you lose in the first round of the playoffs, what does it mean? Nada. Doesn't mean anything. Get healthy. And when you hear the news about Mike Evans, when you hear the news about Jalen McMillan, you hear the news about Benjamin Morrison, get Kalijah Cansey back maybe in a couple weeks too. It's a good time. Good time to be a Buccaneers fan. And it's a good time to talk Tampa Bay sports always with our good pal Evan Closky, WTSP Channel 10, in his usual spot on the porch. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, we got great lighting, much better than when in the summer, as it's so comfortable out. So yeah, this is my go-to spot. I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I feel like this is like the perfect day to have you on because, being a guy that grew up an Islander fan and the Ohio State news of Brian Hartline. Again, I'm still waiting for my dad to text me and talk shit about what happened last night. But
Well,
man,
these guys are going to play each other like another 2 times in the next 10 days. So
crazy,
you can't gloat too much, or else it's going to be shoved right back in your face.
That's right. And I love Matt. I was home for the holidays and watching Matthew Schaefer, man. Holy smokes. Like, this kid is the truth. Like, he's another level, man. He is another level. And I'm just trying to, like, because he's a big left-handed defenseman. Like, he's not as like Victor Hedman big, but he can move with the puck. He's not as fast as Cale Makar. I love the kid.
He's
I think he's the best kid. I already think he's the best player on the team.
there are talks like people are being like, "Yo, you got to make room for him on Team Canada." Like, what's going on? Like, he's so good. He's so good. Yeah, I mean, he's a franchise changer.
He is.
I mean, coming into the draft, he was number one for a reason. But I didn't think he'd be like this immediately. Yeah,
Already, man. And we're
no,
not even halfway through the season. You're like,
yeah,
greatness shows itself so early, right? And
yep,
you could see it, and you don't even have to be like, oh, well, who's 48? You don't
yeah,
even have to go, who's Matthew Schaefer? You're like, oh, who's that 48 guy? He's freaking
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah. He's a gazelle out there.
He's amazing. And amazing is the word of the day, pretty much, brother, because on any other day, Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan returning to practice would be topic A here in the Tampa Bay area. But you're seeing it on social media as much as I am.
hmm
Brian Hartline, and I know you're a diehard Ohio State guy.
hmm
I mean, this is so huge for USF. And you're looking at everybody from Dave Portnoy to Chad Ochocinco to Booger
hmm
McFarland and everybody in between looking at bringing in a guy like Brian Hartline and what that means for USF. And you're talking about a guy that offensive coordinator, play caller for the Buckeyes. This is a guy that could have had the Penn State job. I'm sure he could have had some other jobs too. And he's here at South Florida. They get their guy, the 7th coach in the history of USF football. What is your initial takeaway from Brian Hartline taking over for Alex Golosh at South Florida?
I mean, it's a tremendous get. Regardless of what happens, we can't really control the results that move forward. But process-wise, like getting a guy like Brian Hartline, hard to say that's not an amazing move. Certainly, the fans there in Columbus are upset because of just. I mean, he is arguably the best recruiter in college football right now. Um, you know, you mentioned the wide receiver pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Ohio State receivers through week 13 up to this point have like 1,200 more receiving yards in the next college. A
Right.
lot of them have been with Brian Hartline. I remember Emeka Ibuka when he got signed with the Buccaneers and we spoke with him
Mm-hmm.
day one at that press conference. He mentioned the Ohio State room and working for a guy like Hartline and how he's a perfectionist and how he brings out the best in you and how he pushes you. And that's what he needed. So it's a home run hire. And I know a lot of USF fans were throwing out some names of like, hey, we need somebody who's gonna stay at USF long term. And I think big picture wise, down the road, that is very important. But right now, USF needs to make sure that they are staying relevant and that they are
Mm-hmm.
winning football games.
Right.
They want to make moves to, the ACC, whatever Power Four conference, will give them a bid. And with that negotiating window opening up in a few years, they need to keep racking up wins right now. Like, time is of the essence. There is no like rebuild, right? We got to
Mm-hmm.
reload. This was a great season. 9 wins is awesome. You got to keep that train moving, and bringing in a guy like Brian Hartline should keep that moving. And he's going to also be able to bring in excellent talent to Tampa. So that there's a lot to be excited about if you're a USF fan. And I know that many are wondering, okay, like you're bringing the Brian Hartline, can he keep Byron Brown? Certainly, that's a possibility. But I'll also say this: USF has a great crop of receivers
Mhm.
this year. You think about Koger. Koger, I'm a big fan of. Nimrod. Um, there are some guys on that roster who you would think would jump ship to Alex Golish in the portal. But with Hartline, maybe I'll stick with him. So, he's going to be able to do his best effort to at least retain some. USF has done a tremendous investment into the program. They're gonna give him a lot of money to make sure he can build a roster. And Brian Hartline's going to finally get his opportunity. And that's something that a lot of programs in the Power Four were a little skittish about. Is that okay? You know, can he be the guy? Like
Mhm.
he's always been kind of Ryan Day's right hand man. Well, what is he going to look like when he's on his own? And a lot of power fours didn't want to pull that trigger. USF is the beneficiary now.
Yeah, and I like that this is a guy that when you kind of establish a position at a school where it's a trend, that is years of success, and that's years of putting guys in a position where they can achieve their dreams. And as much as guys love playing at Ohio State, you want to play at the next level. And you start looking at these games and you're looking at these teams and you're like, that's an Ohio State guy. That's an Ohio State guy. And you're looking at, you look at Chris Olave, right? And then you look at Emeka Ibuka and you look at all these different guys and you're going down the list and you're like, Hartline brought that guy in. Hartline worked with this guy. Hartline worked with that guy.
Jackson Smith and Jigba,
Yeah,
the best
Jackson
wide
Smith
receiver
and
in the game.
Jigba. Like,
Marvin
think
Harrison
about that.
Jr.
It's amazing, man.
Carnell Tate's going to be a first rounder next year. Jeremiah Smith might be 1-1 in
Right.
2027. So, Chris Henry Jr. is the last of kind of the big 5-star recruits that he brought to Columbus. Ohio State sealed that deal this year. I mean, it's remote. Go look it up if you want to see it. It's crazy the
Mhm.
amount of receivers that he's had his hands on.
It's so crazy. And I look at his ability to just be a recruiter and him to be, I think, respected around the country, right? It's not just, I feel like it's different. And I understand what you're saying. And I understand why people would have pause because I mentioned this on the show. That 12 inches from the assistant seat to the head coaching seat sometimes is the biggest move, regardless of what side of the country you go to. And I understand that. But I just feel like there's something different about this guy as a leader of men. I feel like this is like he's ready. This is his opportunity. Penn State wanted him. I'm sure other schools did want him. They went in other directions. They wanted a guy maybe with a little bit more experience. But now you're coming to a place in South Florida. I think this is the guy that they wanted all along. They didn't wait. I mean, this didn't take very long. I thought a week or two. It's National Signing Day. And I think this is a huge message to everybody across the country, whether you're coming to USF or not, that they're not playing around. That's huge because there's a lot of people that talk. We want to do this. We want to do this. I mean, look at the Penn State situation. It's embarrassing what has happened with those guys. You look at what happens with Lane Kiffin. You look at all these different guys. You look at what happened with Alex Golish. I love that there was no kind of fluff. They zeroed in on Brian Hartline. They got their guy. They wrapped him up, and he's here less than 24 hours when people were asking me the question of how long it was going to take.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that honestly, what probably took a little bit is, Hartline testing the waters out there in the Power Four ranks and realizing that was not going to come. But yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense that this would be the top choice for USF. I believe that that was the case. Certainly, they had inklings of knowing that
Right.
Golish was leaving. Even Rob told everybody, yeah, he's gotten opportunities. It wasn't an opportunity. There were a lot of options on the table. They did their best. They knew they weren't going to keep him. So, and the thing with Hartline that makes a lot of sense with his job is he knows this area like he knows Florida so well. He played with the Dolphins. He recruits heavily in the Florida area. Like this is part of his foundation is being in these parts. So for him, it's an easy move as well. And he comes in with a chip on his shoulder. As I said, like a lot of people, Will Stein got the Kentucky job over him. And he's a guy who's also the offensive coordinator, hasn't coached, hasn't been a head
Mhm.
coach either. But, Brian also has worked his way up Ohio State's rankings,
Right.
right? This isn't
Quality
a guy
control.
that was an NFL receiver that we threw into the big dog chair of OC
Hmm.
and said, "Hey, look at this shiny new toy." Like this man was an offensive analyst, I think, starting in 2017, and from there just started getting like job after job after job after responsibility, and he earned everything that he got to get to that co-OC chair with Ryan Day, and he he does not get enough credit for the work that he puts in. And that's where the chip comes in. And that
Right.
and we know Rob Higgins. Like in those interviews, that chip, that fire, that perfectionist
Hmm.
attitude, that adrenaline, like man, Rob is going to gravitate towards that. And that's exactly the energy he wants. People that want to prove something and are not going to accept anything less than, making the college football playoffs, which is what USF wants to do this. They're not out here for just saying 8, 9 win seasons. Let's keep it there. Like, Rob wants to be in the dance, and
Hmm.
and USF with the investments they're making, there's no reason why they shouldn't be in that conversation every single year moving forward until they eventually get that pump up to the Power Four.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge deal that USF has come out and said, yeah, they're all about the revenue sharing. They're going to spend that 20.5 million, and they're
Hmm.
the only school in the American to say that they were going to do that.
In Group of
And
Five,
yeah, and
only
they hold,
school.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, which is crazy. And then when you look at, not every P4 school is going to do it. And I remember when the announcement came out where the American conference and Commissioner Pernetti was saying that we want everybody to spend 10 million over the next 3 years, 3, 3, and 4. And I remember asking somebody at USF, and they looked at me and they said, we're going to spend more than 10 in year one. And I go, oh, okay. Wonderful. That's great. We love to
Yeah.
hear that. That's amazing. So it's like, okay, that I love that, because it positions them for the future. It's not, hey, we want to compete now. Because listen, this is another thing for Heartline. You got 20.5. You got a bag to work with going forward. And he also knows that if you're going forward, you're going to be in a new stadium. 2030 is going to be here before you know it. It's less than 5 years away. And
Hmm.
I think the honey spot is the ACC. I think you go to the ACC, you're telling me that you're going to be playing Florida State, Miami, Clemson on the football side, right? Then on the men's basketball side, you're playing at Duke and North Carolina. Like you're telling kids you're going to be playing against these guys at Cameron Indoor. You're going to be playing against, right? Like it's just like that's the kind of thing, in my opinion, that's the next step up. I also think it's the most plausible, probably, out of everything
Hmm.
else. And then I just saw Jeremiah Koger on Twitter respond to the hiring of Brian Hartline with 2 fire emojis. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not like, if a guy goes right, Ev, if a guy goes to Auburn, whether he's at USF or he was committed to USF, you can't hate the kid. You're like, hey, you committed to Alex Golish. But not only is Heartline a good decision because of what we just spoke about, but if you're Coker, if you're Keyshawn Singleton, if you're Chaz Nimrod, if you're any of these other young wide
I
receivers,
forgot to mention Singleton. Yeah.
I'm looking out and I'm going, all right, if I don't go with Golish, I'm going to stay with the guy that is going to help me get to that next level. And listen, if you're at USF, you kind of have an idea of like, all right, it's not the same bigger names, but we've seen in the past, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you see Rodney Adams, like, they do have pretty good track record of wide receivers out there. And now you bring in what could be the wide receiver whisperer in the country. Like if I'm a wideout and I don't get a big offer, if I don't get a USC, if I don't get an Ohio State, man, USF, I just think it's going to help them continue to build on the momentum that they've already established these last 3 years.
Look, when Brian Hartline's recruiting, and he's like, "Hey, let me call up Jackson Smith and Jigba. You wanna talk with him on the phone? Hold on, I got a Mecca Ibuka here.
Right.
We can go down to the meat market. We can go hang out with him.
Mhm.
Like I would be shocked if obviously this recruiting class. I'm going to give him a break here,
Right.
but far too soon. But going into 2027, I'll be shocked if USF doesn't pull some like 4-star wide receiver
Right.
recruit.
Mhm.
If not like multiple, like they're going to have dudes at that position. I don't know any kid that's growing up who wouldn't want to be attached to Brian Hartline.
Right.
Like the the proof is out there at the highest level. He's going to put you in a place to succeed. And if you have dreams of playing in the NFL, he's got all the connects there. He's got it. He knows what it takes. He's got all pros and pro bowlers and national champions that he's coached. Like, I mean, it's right there. So I think that it's a really good spot. I'm very interested to see the staff that he builds around him,
Yeah.
and even beyond all the stuff that he does with wide receivers, this is a guy who played in the league as well. Like, he's got his own connections on top of that. So I do imagine he'll bring a little bit more of a pro style
Yeah.
offense, which should be desirable for some kids as well. And no shade to Alex Golish and what he brought here to USF. Built an amazing foundation. I mean, completely turned this program around, certainly alongside the investments that the school has made. But his system isn't really built for the NFL. Like,
Right.
to me, that the same goes for like Tennessee and the Josh Heupel stuff. Certain wide receivers, are so talented that they can kind of project to a certain level, but that offense is so like move quickly, get the
Right.
sign. Like, who cares? We're just trying to get the defense off balance. You're not really like necessarily teaching NFL concepts. You're
Mhm.
teaching how to dupe college defenses with speed. So Brian Hartline's also going to have the recruiting push of saying, hey, like, we're going to run a system that is going to help you to the next level. And I
Yeah.
think build a new foundation of like, okay, Alex got us winning games. That's the baseline. We needed that.
Mhm.
Now let's build a program that is going to be desirable for kids to get to the next level, to get to the NFL, and feel like this is a great next step out of high school to get them ready to go. So I think that's what we're going to kind of see with Brian Hartline is really a little bit more of a projectable type of offense, and you'll recognize it a little bit more if you watch Sundays a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk some Buccaneer football. Huge news today. Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan
Hmm.
cleared to return. Where are you at with the Buccaneers right now? I mean, like I said, I wasn't surprised. You went from 6-2 to 6-5. It seems like every single year, the middle of their schedule is just an absolute bear. And then down the stretch, they kind of circle the wagons and find their footing before they make a jaunt into the playoffs. So kind of where are you at with the Buccaneers, especially after that win that wasn't overly impressive over the Cardinals on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, look, they choked the Patriots game away. I thought they were the better team in that game, and just three or four mistakes sunk them. And I think if they win that Patriots game, the two-game slide doesn't look as bad, because then you have the Buffalo game, which was honestly a great offensive performance. The defense stunk. We get that. You can live with it. And then the Rams one, you just chalk up to a stinker. And I think our mindset would have been different. Having said that, I got to see so much better from the defense. But with Jalen and Mike coming back, like, Josh Brizard has been coaching since training camp with one arm tied behind his back.
Mhm.
And last year, I personally gave Todd Bowles a big break because that defense was decimated with injuries. And at some point, there's only so much you can do. This year, I'm giving Josh Brizard a break because there's only so much you can do with those injuries. And now, maybe at the right time, you can get everybody healthy outside of Cody Malk, which does hurt, but outside of Cody Malk. And the reason why they also invested in Emeka Ibuka, by the way, is because the defense is not built to carry the load, right?
Mhm.
They knew that. If Kalijah Kancey comes back and you told me this team was 100% healthy entering the playoffs, their starting 11 is a really good starting 11, but the depth behind it
Right.
is a bit concerning. Um, but if you have Mike and you have Jalen and you have Chris and you have Bucky, like at a certain point, there's so much talent on the field that there's only so much that the defense can do to stop you.
Right.
And that's what we were excited about with this offense. And that was what the Bucs tried to build in the offseason, is saying, hey, if our defense isn't necessarily ready to hold opponents under 17 consistently, we got to build an offense that can put up a bunch of points. And that's what this group is built upon. Having said that, if they're going to make a Super Bowl type of run, I got to see better from the defense, and that's where my concern is, because it's just not there. But
What's the biggest
ultimately,
concern of on the defense? What's your biggest concern?
For Zion has regressed.
Yeah.
They're asking a lot of Zion. He got a sizable extension
Yeah, he did.
before the season, and he hasn't lived up to it. I don't know what it is these past few weeks, but he's regressed in that manner.
Mhm.
The the pressure rate is now back, which is nice to see with Hassan Reddick. It's only going to get better when Kalijah Cansey eventually does return, but it's 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 too predicated on getting home with these havoc. Like they're
Yep.
so dependent on sacks, tackles for a loss, and turnovers that they bleed yards. They just like Todd doesn't care about bleeding yards. And maybe that's a little bit of an analytical thing of like,
Mhm.
hey, well, as long as we can hold you to field goals, we don't give a crap. If you drive down the field, we're going to try to get you for a stop. We're going to try to get you for a turnover. But against the best offenses in the league, like the Bills and the Rams, like it's much hard. Like they're going to eviscerate your system, and
Mhm.
it's just not creative enough in the back end. It's creative in the trenches with blitzes, and sometimes they can. I mean, Jacoby Brissett only was sacked twice, but I mean he had an intentional grounding. He threw it away 3 times. Like there are parts of Todd Bowles that are brilliant at the line of scrimmage, but behind it, if it doesn't get home there, he is screwed. Like he's absolutely screwed back there, and he's not creative enough in the back end. It's just so rudimentary
Yeah.
after you get past the D line, and his linebackers, Levante David and Servassier Dennis. Love Levante. He's just not like Levante of
Mhm.
5 years ago, right? He's doing a solid job out there, but his ceiling is now capped with his age. Servassier is a league average linebacker as well, so you don't have like elite speed at linebacker. Just overall, that there are a lot of things there with the defense that I think need to be looked at in the off season to really if Bowles is going to continue to be their guy, it's very clear that he needs a disruptive defensive line, and like the Bucs are going to have to figure that out in the off season because you know the roster construction is built around like 4 players,
Mhm.
and then one of them gets hurt, you're in trouble. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest concern there. But offensively, I think that they can put up a boatload of points when Mike is back, and I don't think Emeka Ibuka has gotten enough credit for what he's had to do his rookie season, moving to that X, which is not his go-to position, and having to really play 3 different types of receivers all as a like it's insane what he's been doing as a rookie. It's only going to make him better in the future, but he's going to be feeling a lot better when Mike can get back into that X position, and everybody's going to fall in place when Mike returns.
Yeah, it's always like roles, right? Like for starting pitchers, when the guy goes out and he's not a
Yep.
really a one, and he's like we saw with Ryan Pepio this year. Um, yeah, I think the pass rush is just kills me not being able to get home with four. I've become an anti-pressure guy over the years.
Hmm.
Now it's like hard hit balls and expected goals in hockey. It's like you can talk about that kind of stuff, which is great, but at the end of the day, if you don't get home, yeah, you'll cause an intentional grounding and throw away, but there's nothing like sacking a guy on 2nd and 9 and turning it into 3rd and 18. What would it take? And you just mentioned with Bulls there. What do you think it would take for Bulls not to return as the head coach next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, if they don't make the playoffs,
Right.
I think alarm bells would ring. Also, if they kind of squeak by the rest of the season, let's say they do make the playoffs, and then they get blasted week 1
Hmm.
in Ray J against, let's say, Seattle or LA,
Right.
like you got to ask yourself, like, here's the thing about Todd Bowles. He's a floor raiser. So for an owner like the Glazers in an NFC South division that stinks, there is a benefit to having a coach that is going to get you to the playoffs, is going to get you a home playoff game.
Right.
That's money in your pocket. You're going to rack up the wins. But at some point, we got to ask ourselves, is Todd Bowles capable of winning 4 straight games against the best of the best in the NFC? They're 2-4 right now, I think, against playoff teams in the league this season. Go back to his time here in Tampa Bay as the head coach. Like when he has to play above his weight class, he does not succeed often. And on occasion, he will figure it out. Like,
Hmm.
the Detroit Lions game sticks out to me.
last
They
year.
had that. What was the Lions were like 1 of 8 in the red zone that year. It was a
Yep.
crazy statistic of how that even all resulted. They still totaled like 400 plus yards, but you look at the Rams this season, and a guy like McVay, just look at what McVay did against Bowles versus what McVay did against Mike McDonald of
Mhm.
Seattle, and somebody who's very creative with those defensive schemes. And to me, if you're going to have a defensive head coach, which already puts you behind the 8 ball because offensive coordinators are the ones that are going to be hired. We've already seen it
Mhm.
twice out of Tampa Bay. If you're going to have a defensive head coach, he better be one of the best defensive coaches in the league, in the sense of, when I look at their defense, they're in the top 10 in a lot of categories. They're like 22nd in the amount of yards given up this season. They've given up around 25 points per game. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
What are we holding on to? Like, and I have nothing against Todd Bowles as the head coach. I like Todd Bowles, the head coach, but I also need Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator, to do something
Mhm.
too. And if Todd was an offensive guy and the defensive coordinator was like a Josh Grizard, and we flipped the roles, and the defense performed like this, we would all be yelling at the DC to be fired.
Yeah.
And the defense just hasn't been performing. It's his job, and the personnel is part of the problem. But it's his job to elevate the talent around him with scheme, just like Sean McVay does, just like any
Right.
offensive guru does. And I just don't see it. I don't see it. It needs a refresh. There's Vita and
Yeah,
Antoine
for all the injuries,
and
there's still Vita and Antoine and Tyke Smith and all these other guys.
Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of Jacob Parrish. There's a lot
Mhm.
of talent on that defense. They shouldn't be this bad. They
Yeah.
should not be this bad. And the depth part of it, the defensive line, Jason Light has to take a little bit of ownership
Right.
on. He missed Logan Hall. He missed Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. He missed on Chris Braswell. I don't blame him for David Walker and Kalijah Cansey. Those have been a
Right.
lot of injury related stuff, and can't predict that. But they have not built the trenches correctly, and that's why this defense has suffered under Todd Bowles ever since he's taken over. And there's no surprise here that when Shaq Barrett regressed, that this defense regressed with
Mhm.
him, because they miss having the elite guy off the edge, and they downplay it every time that we talk with them. And it's so clear that you need one elite guy on the edge who can attract attention, and that would also unlock Yaya Diaby. Because I love Diaby, but he's a 2. He's not a
Yeah.
1,
Right.
and he's getting chipped right now, and that sucks for a 2. So
Mhm.
I think that they have a lot of talent. I just I look around at what the Chargers are doing defensively with Minter and McDonald in Seattle, Halfley in Green Bay. There's a lot of people who have these tremendous schemes, even beyond the talent, and it's just like, is Todd doing that? I think he's just playing it safe, and it's
Mhm.
like, can we not do better? Like, I got to see how the rest of the season plays out, and that's what Jason has to ask. Like, is a new coach going to be able to bring in somebody that's going to refresh everything? And you don't want to be like Penn State. You don't want to
Right.
fire someone without a plan in
Mhm.
place, especially considering when you've won the NFC South, if they win it this year for like a record amount of times in the division's history. So you
Right.
have to balance everything.
Participation trophy number 5 on its way, it seems like, right? For the
Yeah, I mean,
Buccaneers.
but and I agree with that. But also, if I was the owner and I was getting money in my pocket for the home playoff games and winning and understanding what could happen if you go through a decade of darkness again, like, there is another side of the coin where things get so much worse.
Mhm.
So, and this ownership group has seen that, right?
Mhm.
Like, when it works when you go from Dungy to Gruden, but when they fired Gruden, it was
Yeah.
bad for a
Mhm.
while, and a lot of people listening understand that, and you got to remember back to those times. But um you have to weigh it all, and you got to do the cost benefit analysis, and there's a different thinking as me in an owner's brain, me in a GM's brain, me in a coach's brain versus me in a fan's brain. And as a fan, I certainly understand why you want to move on, but also you got to have what's next lined up, and we gotta figure out what that next would be. Could have been Liam Cohen, but that all went up in fire this past offseason.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned the Glazers. I got my Man U scarf back here right here. They don't like to change managers unless they have to, man. It's I don't even like talking about the Glazers and coaching
Yeah,
changes because
yeah.
it gives me a
Yeah.
freaking complex over here. Evan Closky, WTSP Channel 10. Always a great time catching up, my friend. I'm sure I'll talk to you, but if I don't, have a great holiday, and we'll talk
Mhm.
again soon.
Yes, sir. I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
You're the man, buddy. Thank you so much, Evan Closky, bringing the heat on the bowl stuff, huh? That was phenomenal. What else is phenomenal is our friends, of course, at Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC, 813-244-0956 for all your residential and commercial needs. Hammer is jacked up today. He's so excited as a USF grad that Brian Hartline is the new leading man right there for our USF Bulls. And listen, there's new pictures up on the website now. Go to thehonesthammer.com, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Go check him out right now. So many great things. And listen, you want to be able to trust the people that are working on not just your house, but your home. This is your home. And there's new pictures up. Go check him out on social media. The Honest Hammer. He's a big time Tampa Bay sports fan, just like you. These are the people you want to support. I'm always talking about supporting local. Support our friends over at The Honest Hammer. Benny says he heard Hammer call T-Kraz yesterday. There you go. He's all over the place, man. We love it. Shout out to our guy, The Honest Hammer, and of course, EverHealth, everhealth.org with 17 different locations in the Tampa Bay area. Our EverHealth injury report with Dr. Rodriguez on Thursday at 12:30. We'll talk about the Mike Evans injury and all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And of course, when we talk about all things Tampa Bay Lightning, we do with our good pal, Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. He's excited. He's got his USF hat on today. What's going on, Double? How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
It's
closer.
It's a great day. It's a great day. Even though the Lightning lost last night, it's funny. They lose the game 2-1. I haven't gotten a text from my dad rubbing it in yet, which is good. It's still early. But is it bad that I like that they lost 2-1? Like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, you lose, like you play a good, honest game. You play a team with the Islanders, and they're kind of figuring it out. I love Matthew Schaefer, but when you lose a game like that after winning as many as you did, you're like, okay, something to build on, and then you kind of get right back to it on Thursday against the Penguins. What did you make of the game last night?
If you can consistently defend, you're going to give yourself a chance in games like last night.
You sound like John Cooper.
They defended, right? It's once again, you hold an opponent to under 2 goals. So you give yourself a chance. I think 6 times in the last 8 games, they've held an opponent to 2 or fewer. Obviously, that's the first one they've lost when holding an opponent to under 3 goals. But yeah, look, the offense, the numbers suggest that they were dominant in the game. I don't know if they were dominant in the game. They had the puck a lot. They did create chances. I think some of the numbers were a little skewed because of the opportunities they had during the 6-on-5 extra attacker situation. I think they kind of raised the numbers a little bit higher than they actually were during the game, but they did have chances to score goals. I mean, the stop that Sorokin made on Cirelli when he came in, with a clean look was a huge stop, obviously. But it was one of those nights where the offense just wasn't clicking the way that we've seen those guys click, right? Like Brandon Hagel had 7 shot attempts, but none of them got through to the net, right? 6 of them were blocked, and he had a big miss there at the end from the slot. They had 22 misses and 22 attempts blocked. Of this, I think 72 they threw towards the net. So that's a high number of shot attempts, but the fact that only 30 of those 72 got through to Sorokin kind of tells you how the Islanders defended first and foremost. But it also tells you that they were just off a little bit. I sort of used the analogy in what I wrote today, and talking about it on the broadcast last night. When we were younger, you worked for like 15 straight days. And then you get a couple days off and you go back to work, you feel a little refreshed, but you're not quite as engaged as you were. Right. That's kind of what that game was last night. Like they finally got 2 days off after playing 9 games in 15 days.
Yeah.
And they just looked just a little off, and that's okay. That happens sometimes.
No doubt.
I think Cooper's right that they did enough in that game to score more than 1 goal. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. But the fact that they defended meant that even on an off night offensively, you still had a chance to get points out of the game. That's a good takeaway to kind of to take from it as the 7-game winning streak comes to an end and a 5-game road winning streak comes to an end.
And that's the thing too, E. If you look back at the successful Lightning teams in the last decade, right? Those, like, the defense can really never take a night off. Like, that's just one of the things that you have to pride yourself on. You can't expect to outscore everybody. And that's why when I come away from the game last night, even after Dominic James scores, I'm like, are they going to come back? Like, are they? It's like, you just felt like it was, and that's the thing that, they had a game I forgot which one. Oh, the game they won in overtime when Gensel scored. That was a 2020 Tampa Bay Lightning win, right? You're struggling. You're trying to find a way. You stay with it. You tie it late and you come back and win. I feel like we're seeing more of that type of hockey this year than even maybe what we saw last year. Do you agree with that? And what would you attribute that to?
I would actually attribute it to the 1-4-2 start.
Yeah.
Because what's the one thing that John Cooper said to us repeatedly during those first 7 games of the season? We got to manage the puck better. We have to have better decisions with the puck, right? And I think that, they couldn't outscore their problem, which is something that, say that 2019 team could do. They could outscore their problems. So I think that, the first 7 games of the year, they realized that they weren't going to outscore their problems, especially when you're creating problems in the final 2 minutes of the game. I mean, they lost games in regulation that was tied with under 2 minutes to go 3 times, during that stretch. So I think it came from that. The message got through that we have to defend better. We have to be better with the puck. We have to take some of the risk out of our game. And you've seen that. Like, there's been plenty of times now where they're finally getting back to establishing their forecheck on a consistent basis. They're not always trying to make a play at the blue line. They're not always trying to make a play right inside their own blue line, right? It's those type of things, because with this team, and it's been this way for a few years, if they can defend, if they can concentrate on keeping pucks out of the net, they have the game breakers to make a difference in games. And that's kind of what the message is sort of getting back to. I think we've seen a little bit of a shift in terms of how they want to play, like the Rangers game on Saturday. And Chief was the one who pointed this out, how aggressive they were on the puck carrier, especially as the Rangers tried to get over their own blue line, the Lightning's offensive blue line. They were on the puck right away. Like, they didn't give the Rangers any chance to get a transition game going because they were so aggressive on the puck coming out of the zone.
Can you imagine watching that game on my parents' couch like I was? Can you imagine how that was, sitting on my couch as my entire family, except my dad was a Lightning fan that day. And my 3 nieces come upstairs with "Let's go." They went downstairs and made these signs in red, white, and blue. And then in the middle of the second period, they're surrounding me as I'm sitting on the couch. "Let's go Rangers. Let's go Rangers." I'm like, "You're not getting anything for Christmas. Not you, not you, not you." It was so funny. It was like the funniest thing ever. And I'm just sitting there as they're just waxing. And then they scored. JT Miller scored. I'm like, "Oh," and they're like, "What's the score now, Uncle Jay? What's the score?" I'm like, "Go downstairs. Get back in the playroom. Leave me alone." But that's the kind of game, though, right, E? Like, that was the game right there. It was, they neutralized everything the Rangers did. And I look at the third line, and I said this to my brother, because, obviously him being a big Ranger fan, I'm not a JT Miller guy. Never have been, never will be. I don't think that's ever going to work with him as the captain of the team. But I said, watch this next shift. And JT Miller, Mika Zibanejad, and Alexei Lafreniere were hemmed in their zone. And they weren't hemmed in their zone by Nikita Kucherov, Anthony Cirelli, and Brendan Hagel. They were hemmed in their zone by Yanni Gord, Pontus Holmberg, and Zemgus Girgensons. And then 5 minutes later, I said, "Ryan, look where they're at right now." And he goes, and then again, I'm in the other room. He comes back. He's like, "They're doing it again." I mean, that's the key. And we've been waiting for the quote unquote third line with Gord. And I talked to Yanni about this. And he goes, "Yeah, there are similarities, man, because we're relentless. We don't stop." Now, do you have the high-end offensive power that like a Blake Coleman brought to probably not, but I think those 3 guys are kind of a microcosm of the turnaround of this team. Do you agree with that sentiment?
For sure. I think that's a part of it. I mean, once Gergensen's came back, he came back in game 8, right?
Yep.
They've only lost, 4 since he came back. I'm not saying it's because of Zemgus Gergensen's, but
he's a good guy. We could say
he is. He, just the way he played. Look, do you know who's 5th on this team in goal scoring right now?
No
Zemgus
way.
Gergensen.
Oh my
He's got
God.
5. He's got 5 goals.
5?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, and that doesn't even count. He had a few goals in the preseason.
He did.
Look, I thought it was great. Dan Heino was on the radio broadcast with Dave Mishkin, first intermission at the Detroit game. And they said that they call Pontus Holmberg the backpack.
I love
because
that.
he can carry guys on his back and still protect the puck. So that's the backpack line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way that they kind of go out and approach it. They just lean on guys. They're all great at protecting the puck. We know Yanni Gorda is relentless in what he does. Gergensen's really uses his size to his advantage, and we certainly learned in a short period of time the way that Holmberg can play the game and literally carry guys on his back while protecting the puck. He's been very good at that. When he's been in the lineup. So yeah, it's a tone setter. There's a reason on the road, especially, that John Cooper starts this trio almost exclusively. When it's on the road. Now, I think against the Rangers that they won the faceoff and they changed right away, or it might have been the Detroit game where they won the faceoff and changed right away. But they're tone setters, right? And that's what that Coleman, Goodrow, and Gord line was in 20 and 21. Is they were the tone setters. Remember, they started basically every single period for the most part in that 2020 run to the Cup. And I think there are some similarities in the way that they can just go out and sort of control a game, not necessarily in the way that a Nikita Kucherov can control the game, but they can control the game with their forecheck and their ability to lean on guys and be physical.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kucherov there. I was talking about this on the show yesterday. Him playing with Cirelli and Hagel is just giving him a little bit more room on the ice. And yeah, I know Kucherov and Point have been such a dynamic duo, but I just feel like maybe at this point in their career, Kucherov playing with them and then maybe Point playing with a Gensel and a Gensel's and a Bjorkstrand, maybe like that could be it's just Kuch has played so well with these guys. We know about the chemistry with Cirelli and Hagel, but because of how responsible they are defensively and just they're so tireless on pucks and they play that 200-foot game that Team Canada loves so much. Do you go back when Point comes back to Point and Kucherov, or do you keep Kuch with these two guys?
I would say the way that Point and Kucherov played together so far this year, nope. They're not being put back together anytime soon. Now, we know how the season goes. And look, there's been times even when Point and Kucherov have been incredible together that John Cooper does break them up because they do kind of get stuck within themselves sometimes, right? And their defensive play lacks and everything else. So we've seen John Cooper do that through the years, even with the chemistry that they do have. But I mean, we know that Braden Point has not been anywhere near what he needs to be for this team this season. We'll see, hopefully, maybe this time off, to kind of come back from whatever injury is bugging him, that he kind of rejuvenates himself and rekindles himself. And because he's getting the heat from the Canadian media, right? Because he's already one of the guys named to the Canadian roster for the Olympics. And
I don't think he would have made the team if he wasn't one of those guys named.
Well, let's remember who the head coach is, though. Too.
That's true.
But that's why people are trying to write Brandon Hagel off of this team.
No way.
I don't think you understand the way things work. They're not looking for the 25 best Canadian players. They're looking for the 25 best players for this team. It's the old line from the 1980 Olympics, right? When they were putting together Team USA and the famous line from Herb Brooks, I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the best team, right? And that's kind of how, you go through the years and how Canada has approached it. And look, if Canada wins gold, everything is great. If they win anything but gold, everybody's going to criticize and scrutinize every decision that the coaching staff and the management staff makes for it. But if anybody thinks that, and Connor Bedard's having a great year, Macklin Celebrini is having a great year, they're still 20-year-olds. And is Connor Bedard going to go out and kill a power play that has Austin Matthews and Jake Gensel and anybody else from Team
Chuck,
USA, Quinn Hughes is Brandon Hagel and Anthony Cirelli going to be those guys? I see no reason whatsoever, especially with the way that Cirelli and Hagel have been playing in particular over the past month, that you keep them off this team because of the season Macklin Celebrini is having. Again, Steven Stamkos did not make the team in, I forget which year was it, 2012 or 2010. I forget where my years are at, but he was coming off a 40-goal season, right? He didn't make the team, and his GM was the GM for Team Canada and Steve Yzerman, right? That all led to the whole Marty St. Louis situation. So that would have been 14, right? Or not? I forget. Again, I'm not going to try and go back and test my memory because I'll probably fail on it. But yeah, there's no way that you don't take Hagel and Cirelli for a team because you need guys who can kill that penalty in a gold medal game.
I think it's asinine to think that after you just won the gold medal in the Four Nations, with how important those guys were to your success, to think that Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel are not going to make this team. And then, the head coach is John Cooper and Julien Brisebois is part of the decision-making process. Like, who's going to go out there with 2 minutes left in the game to defend those top-tier guys, like you said, like Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel and Matthew Tkachuk? You're not going to put a 20-year-old out there. And, those guys, they're scoring all those goals for the Blackhawks and the Sharks. They're not playing on the first power play unit for Team Canada over Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. Like, we got to keep things in perspective. So while we see all of these different predictions of what, Bedard's got to make the team, Celebrini's got to make the team. If you make a list of Team Canada and you put the four lines out there and you don't have Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel on there, I think you're crazy.
And if you think that you're going to keep Brandon Hagel off this team after his fight with Matthew Tkachuk to start the preliminary round game between Canada and Team USA, there's no way. We know how much passion Brandon Hagel plays with when he puts that maple leaf on, which he had never done before, right? He was not a part of World Juniors or anything else. He got to play in the World Championships. And then last year, the passion that this guy will bring to the lineup for Team Canada, like there's no way. Again, this is not saying that Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard are not having fantastic starts to the year, and they've done what I think Doug Armstrong has basically told them to do, make it hard on me. They have. But at the end of the day, again, Bedard is not the guy you're sending out to kill the penalty or to protect the lead in a medal round game, right? Like, you need guys like that. It's not the best players, it's the best team. And Cirelli and Hagel make Canada a better team because of their skill set. Not everybody can be the 50-goal, 100-point guy, right? You need other guys. The 98 team took Rob Zaminer because he was a fantastic penalty killer, right? That first round of NHL players to Nagano now didn't work because Canada didn't win a medal, right? Like, it's so they get scrutinized for that, and everybody's, how can you take Rob Zaminer? But if they'd won a gold medal and it had been Rob Zaminer out there protecting the lead late in the game, everybody would say, a great decision. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to this, especially when it comes to Team Canada.
Yeah, and I think about it too, E. I said this on the program yesterday. I saw after the game against the Oilers last week, Brandon Hagel talking to Connor McDavid. And when you look at Connor McDavid and a guy that's done everything in this league individually, and he's just craving team success, and you hear John Cooper speak about Connor McDavid and how he's a pro's pro, there's no way that Connor McDavid looks at Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel and doesn't appreciate the hell out of guys like that. Because that he looks at them and goes, damn it, those guys were on our team with the Oilers. We probably have won a cup or two. But, right? There's no way that he doesn't expect. Obviously Hagel doesn't have the cups, but knowing that Tony has back-to-back, he appreciates the shit out of guys like that. And when it's one thing if the coaches know, it's one thing. It's another thing when the best player on the planet knows it too. And I just feel like that's another reason why, he's not going to say, oh, that's a bad decision. He's going to be like, we need those guys. They were part of there's already a proof of concept here. You've already won a gold medal in the Four Nations with him. Imagine they don't put Cirelli and Hagel on there and then they don't win the gold medal, right? It's crazy. And
they give up a power play goal that ends up being the difference. That's just what it comes down to. It's no doubt. No matter what decisions they make. When you're as deep as Canada, and you could make a B team out of Canada's player pool, and they would be competitive in a tournament like this, even against the A team that Canada can put on the ice. That's just how deep they are. U.S. is getting close. The USA prospect pool and player pool and the development process that they've had, there's going to be guys left off this Team USA roster. I mean, we talked about it at the Four Nations last year, guys who were not on the roster that, we're like, well, why isn't this guy here? And, so there's always going to be that situation. And when the fact that we can have this conversation with Team USA's roster, maybe not as deep and maybe not as high end as Canada's top guys, but it's right there. And that's how deep the US is. And, I talk to Kevin a lot, and Kevin talks to me a lot about the USA Olympic team. And he goes over it in his head all the time. And as he said, this is the best chance that USA has, right? With the depth and everything that they have. And you look at Canada's goaltenders. I mean, the fact that Canada has no idea who they're going to start in goal, it kind of gives you an idea where Canada's at. They have some of the greatest players in the game, but they don't have as a goaltender.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They don't have Connor Hellebuck, and we'll see if he's going to be okay, because I know he's out for now. And Jake Ottinger, I mean, there's other Americans that they're looking at right now, possibly as the second and third guy. So we'll see. What do we make of this defense? No Edmund, no McDonough, no Chernak, no Crozier, and these guys are defending as well. I mean, you look at it's JJ Moser and Darren Radish, and I think it's so awesome that a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Darren Radish being the odd man out, and
the
last 2 weeks I think he's played some of his best hockey in a Lightning uniform. He has been absolutely incredible, and the combination with JJ Moser has been exemplary. Charles Bardestu is not going anywhere. He's been really good. And even the kids when you bring up Carlisle and Santini, you just kind of plot them and you plug them right in there. I really enjoy what I've seen from this D-core. What does that have to do with? Is it the familiarity? What does Dan Hinote have anything to do with? Because somebody said something the other day, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. And they're saying part of the reason why the defense is so good is because Blashill's out and Hinote's in. I don't know if he gets all of the credit for that, because he's not, quote unquote, a defensive guy. I just think the players are being smarter and they're taking care of the puck better. What say you?
Yeah, it's too much simplification to say, well, they're better because Dan Hinote's in and Blashill's out. I mean, look what Blashill's doing with the Blackhawks, right? He's doing a good job with the Blackhawks, and Connor Bedard is a completely different player this year than he has been. So it's just too easy to point those kind of fingers, because it's not like Hinote has been a track record of being this great coach, right? He doesn't have a long track record. He's been around, right? He spent some time in Columbus and everything else, but he's never been a head coach and designed, schemes. Or I don't know how much scheming Dan Hinote has done. I love talking to Dan Hinote, by the way. He is a tremendous interview. He's a tremendous interview, and his backstory and everything else. So he's brought, I think, a different kind of energy to the coaching staff and the coaching room. But to say that the reason for the defensive turnaround is because, the Lightning were still, what were they, 8th last year in team defense? Right now, they still back off at the blue line, right? That's still part of the system. That hasn't changed, right? I think the difference has been in the aggressiveness, as we talked about, specifically in the game against the Rangers, where they're trying to, not necessarily mimic, but, kind of be a little bit more aggressive, like Carolina, like Florida, because they have had some, long success with that style of play. And we're seeing, I think, that slowly sort of integrated into the way that the Lightning want to approach things. I think the other part of it too is the job that Joel Bouchard is doing in Syracuse, and they play basically the same system that, because the thing about Carlisle and Santini, they didn't play together in Syracuse. They were not a pair in Syracuse, obviously familiar with each other, but they didn't play together. And now they've come up here and been able to kind of work their way in. And Santini's not a kid. He's 31 years old. He's got 100+ games of NHL experience under his belt. But I think it's just, to be able to come up, having played in the Syracuse system, and Carlisle obviously has been there for a couple of years, and this is Santini's second year with the organization, that they can just kind of come in and plug themselves in. And, and I think a guy like Dastu, who's, came in with a chip on his shoulder because this was his first NHL contract, let alone his first call up and first shot at the NHL. And he's a guy at 27 who's taking full advantage of the opportunity. If you'd have told people back on October 4th or 5th that by the time you get to December, your Lightning's top 4 defense are going to be J.J. Moser, Darren Radish, Charles-Edouard Dastu, and Emil Lilleberg. You would not have been thinking you'd be sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference. There's no way anybody could have thought that. You would, if that was the case, you'd have said something disastrous has happened.
Oh yeah, they're in last,
but they haven't.
Oh, wait, who's in last in the Atlantic? I just wanted to see. Oh yeah,
a frequent occupier.
No, it's Florida now.
Oh, it's Florida now. That things change so quickly.
It's so crazy, right?
Yeah, so it's just a testament to being able to come in and fit in seamlessly, and it's a total sort of buy-in to what the Lightning are preaching. And look, Dastu is his first pass out of the zone. I mean, you talk to anybody, that's the first thing they notice about him is his ability to get the puck out of the zone. That's so key. It's not something that usually shows up in a stat sheet. Sometimes it'll be a secondary assist. Occasionally, it's a primary assist. But when you can get your own team out of trouble in your own end with that good first crisp pass and put it on somebody's blade in transition so that they don't have to slow down. That's such an underrated part of teams that can get out of their own zone. And Dastu does that very, very well on top of everything else he brings, right? Like it's great for the future. The interesting thing is going to be, Hedman has been practicing. I don't know if he'll be ready this weekend when he's eligible to come off LTI. Doesn't sound like it. McDonough finally back on the ice a little bit, was not a full participant in practice on Monday, but was out there a little bit as well as during the optional yesterday morning. What did they do? Obviously Santini and Carlisle, probably go back to Syracuse, but like you can't send Dastu back. Radish is playing the best hockey of his career.
Yeah.
Right. For a guy, not only do we wonder about, where Darren Radish fit, we wondered if he even fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like, where would he be? Would he be out of the organization? Is this the conversations we were kind of having with Darren Radish? And he's certainly turned his game around. I mean, you're almost to the point where you hope that when McDonough and Hedman and Chernak and assuming Crozier comes back, they don't screw it up.
Yeah, I know. Right?
that's just kind of where it's at. But they've got some roster decisions that they're going to have to make when all these guys are ready to come back. And the only guys who don't require waivers are Dastu, Dominic James, and Max Crozier.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Carlisle and Santini fit quite yet. 10 games in 30 days. They're getting close to the 10-game mark for those guys before they would have to go through waivers once again. So we'll see what happens. But, I mean, these are good decisions to make, but they are decisions that the team is going to have to make in terms of who, not only just who stays in the lineup, who stays on the roster.
Yeah, no doubt about it. E, what do you got up on lightninginsider.com now, buddy?
Yeah, hey, a little bit of a detailed look at last night's game, some of the stuff we talked about, but a little bit more in-depth in terms of what happened and how it happened and everything else on that aspect. And, as we say, there's, two ways to sign up. There's a monthly plan, there's a yearly plan, and, of course, that promo code JNZ will give you $10 off, not just year one, but every recurring year. So if you haven't signed up, make sure you do it. Use that code JNZ because there's no better value in terms of the website than getting that one.
You got that right, buddy. And of course, E's been covering the Lightning longer than anybody. And man, this is just such a fun team to cover. And right now, especially around the holidays, if you're looking for something to get for somebody, as far as I don't know what to get them as far as a gift goes, and they're a big Lightning fan, how about a subscription to lightninginsider.com? That is the way to go. Support local. We always talk about it here on the program. Follow E on Twitter /X, Erik_Erlendsson. That's a K, not a C. 2 S's after the D. You can hear him on Lightning Radio on the Bone. And, of course, every Wednesday here at 1 o'clock on the Jay Recher podcast. Double E, appreciate you, my brother. I'll see you tomorrow at the arena.
All right. Look forward to it. Thanks, Jay.
You're the man. Thanks, buddy. The great Erik Erlendsson. All the information, baby. We touch on it all. And me and E are lockstep with that. And I'm going to tell you something. Last year, we were up in the press box and we were talking about Team Canada, and Erik was the first person. And you guys know I follow everybody on social media, and, it drives me crazy half the time. But Erik was the first guy that looked at me and said, Cirelli and Hagel. And I was like, oh, shit. And he was totally right. And look at the role that they played for Team Canada. I just don't see it, and I get it. TSN and Sportsnet and all these guys, and everybody, Bedard this, Celebrini this guy, Nick Suzuki here, blah, blah. Like, with John Cooper as the coach and Julian Brisebois as part of the crew up there, I just don't see how those guys are not involved. You can't put 12 offensive forwards out there. That's all they do. And don't give me the McDavid kills penalties and this guy kills penalties and this and that. Like, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And the reason why Bedard and Celebrini have these opportunities to show what they're made of is because their teams aren't great and they're getting a ton of opportunities. Yeah, they may be overperforming a little bit as a team and as a player, but like, they're getting every opportunity to succeed, but every opportunity to fail too. Now is not the time, if you're Team Canada, to go through a situation like that where, like, let's see if Connor Bedard can kill a penalty. No. Give it to a guy like Anthony. Think about it. Anthony Cirelli has been killing penalties against the best offensive players in the game for the better part of the last decade. He's a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. He's a gold medal winner in the Four Nations. He's been in the face-off dot with the best of the best, with Bergeron, Kopitar, Crosby, and Barkov, everybody in between. And Brandon Hagel is one of the best 5-on-5 forwards that this game has to offer. Look at the numbers last year. When you're comparing him to Leon Draisaitl, I mean, what more do you have to say? Draisaitl, in a lot of people's eyes, is a top 5, top 10 player in the league, and Brandon Hagel is relentless. This is a guy that had, one goal in the first 10 games or some shit, and now he's going, and you're looking at it, he's on fire. This guy scores in bunches. He can play with Cirelli. He can play with Kucherov. He's going to kill penalties. He's not going to back down. It's weird to me, man. They want all these whole high-profile games or high-profile players. That's just not the way it goes. E said it the best. You're not trying to build a team you're not trying to get the best players. You're trying to assemble the best team. There you go. There you go. All right. Baker and hold on. Giannis Antetokounmpo reportedly asked for a trade before the season, per Brian Windhorst. Reportedly appeared that Giannis committed himself to the Bucs for the season, everything he said in his mood, but had asked for a trade before the season. The Bucs are 9-13. Interesting. Where is he going to go? Lakers? Where is he going to? How about the Knicks? Oh, that's crazy. That is wild. All right. What did Baker Mayfield, what did Todd Bowles have to say today? Todd Bowles said earlier today, Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan didn't do much today, but because it was a walkthrough, looking forward to see them do more tomorrow as they strive to get game ready. Do I expect either one of those guys to be back this weekend against New Orleans Saints? No. I'd be happy if they were in there. But with that being said, let's take their time. The game against Carolina is the game that I really want them to be ready for. Bowles also said that they don't want to sit and look at scores every week. They want to control their own destiny. Baker Mayfield was very excited about Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan being back at practice. He says Evan attracts a lot of attention. Obviously, trust him for McMillan's been a long time coming, and he's been working hard to be in that position. Baker also said Chris Godwin Jr. looked more confident and explosive in last week's game. Godwin is a hard player to bring down. Baker says he feels better after not taking any direct hits. For practice reps, he'll see. Baker says they have a resilient group. They have asked a lot from everybody so far, and that is a credit to everyone from players to coaches in the training room. Just making sure I give you guys everything we have here. We see that the Buccaneers Raise the Flags docuseries is set to begin next week on Amazon Prime. That's December 11th. 10-part docuseries. I know our guy Ira Kaufman is going to be involved with that, so we'll try to have Ira on next week to promote it. I look at this time with the Buccaneers, and you're getting these people back, and you're getting a opportunity for the Buccaneers to get their best players on the field at the end of the season when you need them most, which is an incredible thing when you really think about it. And I'm going to have this conversation with Ian today. We got the Beckles and Recher podcast coming up at about 3:15 today over at the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. You're not going to want to miss that. But something that Ian and I were going back and forth about is, I told him, I was like, is it going to matter when they're 6-5 after they lose these 3 games? And we kind of went back and forth, and now they won the game over the Cardinals. Now they're 7-5. So your destiny is still in your hands. Carolina is obviously better than a lot of people thought. But how are they going to fare through a 17-game season? It's a week-by-week league that the NFL, that we watch in the NFL. And you think you have a beat on these teams. You think you have a beat on these players. This guy's going to do this. This guy's going to do that. But then you go out and you see a team that just looks nothing like the team that you saw last week, right? It's just crazy like that. Dave Canales has never been in this spot. A lot of the guys in the Carolina Panthers have not been in this spot. Part of the reason why I was not too concerned about the Buccaneers having a swoon in the regular season is because we've seen it before. And as much as everybody wants to go out there and you want to sit and you want to try to be this prognosticator and a predictor of future events when it comes to the NFL more than anything else, like you don't know. You don't know. That's the great thing about sports. Week to week, crazy shit happens. And they surprise you. And guys do things that nobody saw the Panthers beating the Rams. Nobody saw the Panthers beating the Packers. It happens. That's why we love it. That's why games aren't played on a piece of paper. In the NFL, because we have so long to be able to break down what happened with these games, I think that's where the fun is. And now, as bad as it was the last 3 weeks before the Arizona Cardinals game, you win this game against the Saints, you're 8-5. You're feeling a lot better about yourselves. Who's to say what's going to happen with Carolina going forward? Yeah, they got a bye. And then they'll be back and they'll be playing the Buccaneers and we'll be ready to roll. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this Buccaneers team. Sunday, 1 p.m. against New Orleans. They're 2-10, but it's a rivalry game. You never know. We got a hell of a game Thursday night. That's tomorrow. It's already Wednesday. Holy shit. Dallas and Detroit. We'll see, man. I told you Detroit was going to have a tough year. Changing the coordinators. Dan Campbell's calling plays. I still think they're going to make the playoffs because they have a lot of good players. And I believe in Dan Campbell as being one of those tough guys that, they're tough-minded. I trust them down the stretch. We'll see. Really good article on ESPN. Best NFL players at 109 different skills. Top quarterbacks, wide receivers, and cornerbacks. Matt Bowen put that together. That is awesome. I love it every single year. 3rd straight year. Top players by specific skills. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. Another great show today. What a viewership. So many people tuning into the program today. Right now, kill that like button. Every single little bit helps. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Make sure you show some love to Honest Hammer, Custom Builders, LLC. New pictures up on the website, thehonesthammer.com. EverHealth, 17 different locations in Pinellas County. They don't want to be your last resort. They want to be your first resort. They help you everything from the cradle to the grave. The EverHealth Injury Report every Thursday at 12:30 with our guy, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. You do not want to miss that one. I will be live tomorrow from Benchmark International Arena. It is Lightning and Penguins. That should be a fun one right there. A big thank you to Evan Closky for joining us from WTSP Channel 10. Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. Use that promo code JNC, $10 off, not just this year, but every recurring year after that. And of course, we have the Beckles and Recher podcast coming up at 3:15 today, right here on the channel, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go check out the Dignitary Cafe, the best kava and kratom in town. I love you all. Thank you so much for the support. The $5 super chat with our guy, Eddie. You're the best, Eddie. Thank you. Love you all. See you tomorrow at noon right here on the J Recher podcast. I'm gone.